Welcome to Talking Tactics, a show about insights and the results they ignite. I'm Safaniya Stevenson, a brand strategist and cultural analyst in the wonderful world of marketing. And every other week, I dig into the aha moments that changed everything for a higher education marketer. Each episode of Talking Tactics starts with an insight, following it from observation to action that created measurable results. We're talking about the breakthrough moments that happen with scrappy resources, and sometimes we'll even explore the tactics that, crashed and burned, because there's also value in trial and error. Your next innovative idea might be hiding in your data, your hallway conversations, or your own gut instinct. So let's get to it. So, according to some new research by Sprout Social in their 2026 Social Media Content Strategy Report, the number one task marketers use AI to support is, and probably will come by no surprise, is copy content creation, right? So we all know we're in ChatGPT and Claude putting all the research report, make me a punchy LinkedIn post about XYZ. But hang on. When asked what marketers say would be the most helpful in increasing the impact of their social media strategies, overwhelmingly, people are saying real-time insights into what audiences want to consume. So we've kind of got a little bit of a how we're using AI versus how we would like to use AI. So in the studio today from Sprout Social, we have Brittany Hennessy, VP of Social Intelligence Evangelism. One heck of a title. Welcome, Brittany.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here. I love that you used LinkedIn in your example because that's how we met. You had
Right.
a punchy LinkedIn post, and I was like, hold on, I need to know who this is.
And it wasn't even like, hey, LinkedIn, find me some cool people. It was organic. It happened in a comment section.
Yes. Thank you so much. Happy to be on.
So before we get started, again, super cool title. So before we kind of even kind of hop into the tactics, the tricks, and the word we hate, magic, is social intelligence. And then what is at your title, as a social intelligence evangelism? What does that mean in the ecosystem of Sprout? And do I need to be looking for evangelical roles? Is that helpful?
No. So this is a first in seat role at Sprout. So prior to this, I was the VP of outbound product management for our influencer platform.
Nah, that's cool.
That's my second life. My life before that was social media management. So to everyone listening to this podcast, I have been in the trenches. I get it. I know what you are feeling. But all of those things have evolved into what is social intelligence, because essentially we have so much data. We have not had this much data in the history of ever, and it just keeps piling on. And it really is the application of social insights to business strategy. So how do you hear what is happening on TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and a WhatsApp, all these places? Use AI to pull out those insights, interpret them to know, does it even matter to your, university? And then what are you going to do about that? How can we take those insights and turn them into a business decision so that when the higher ups, the powers that be, come to you and go, what do you guys do here? Why do you need a head count? How come you shouldn't be included in layoffs? You have an answer. Well, we had this insight that we pulled from social, which led to this decision, which led to X number of new applicants, X number of people filling out this form, X enrollment, X press. But you've got to be able to quantify that in order to prove your worth. So that's the idea of social intelligence. Insights on social, all the way down to a business outcome that lives outside of your team. And my role is evangelizing that, which is coming on fabulous podcasts like this, doing things like social media week, all of these things, hosting press dinners, meeting with customers and prospects to explain to them what is social intelligence, how there's a good chance you're already doing it, you're just stopping short, and what does a business transformation look like once you have it. Because we've just found social teams that understand social intelligence, they just show up more confident, they get that additional headcount, and they get brought in to consult other teams as opposed to just being a team that's reactive or a team that just gets told, we made this cool thing, make it go viral, which we all know. This is not a
Yeah.
thing. Still saying it, but that's not a thing.
And what this whole conversation is going to be about is the fact that social intelligence does play a role in smart business decisions and smart marketing decisions, and in the context of higher ed, admissions, enrollment,
Yes.
big brand decisions. And you and I kind of talked about this in the past of a lot of teams look at social intelligence kind of like insurance. It's something
Mhm.
that teams don't invest in until it's too late. And what I also thought was really cool about this particular research report is people want it. Like the number one thing overwhelmingly at any level, whether it was like intern, producer, manager, director, executive, people say they want real time insights. And so, what are higher ed teams most at risk for missing or misreading right now without the presence or investment in social intelligence?
Yeah. So when you don't have social intelligence, you fall into what we call the information gap. So that's the delay between a shift that's happening and your institution's ability to respond to it.
Mhm.
That time in the middle used to be very short. Maybe something happened on campus, it got leaked to the press. 4 days later, it shows up in print, but you've already had time to
Yeah.
assimilate the comms team, the crisis, the president knows, everybody's been able to weigh in, have a nice plan. Now, while your team is sleeping, something can go viral on TikTok because your
Right.
students are up at all hours of the night. And by
Yeah.
the time you wake up, or worst case scenario, something goes live Friday night. By the time you walk into the office on Monday, it has already gone viral. It has already been memed. There's already been 65 articles about it. The New York
Mhm.
Times is calling you to ask for your take on X, Y, and Z that happened at your university. And you're just like, I'm sorry, what happened? What did I miss? And so
Right.
without social intelligence, you've got to do things like you've got to rely on like reports, which are great, but not instant.
Mhm.
Surveys, which are great if people fill them out. And then meanwhile, while you're gathering your information like that, students and other people on campus and other people talking about, your higher ed organization, they're having real time conversations. And the perception and the narrative are already shaped before it's even
Can
on
even
your radar and
right.
before you even had a chance to come up with a response or step in. So it's really like insurance is one of those things you have and hope you don't need it. And it's
Need.
but social intelligence is like it's not even like insurance. It's like having a driver's license. Like, could
Yeah.
you drive a car without a driver's license? Yeah, because it's an emergency and like the person sitting next to you had a heart attack. But like you really shouldn't get behind the wheel unless you know what you're doing because too many things will happen and you will not know how to respond. And then you will have a crisis. And now you, instead of being proactive, which is what you could have been with social intelligence, you are now being reactive. And
Right.
oh, there's not a worse position to be in with how fast social moves.
And like you said, that intelligence gap is such a huge PR and brand risk where, like you said before, that gap is like, "Oh, we have time to respond," or, "Oops, our bad. It took the mail 2 weeks to get here." So we kind of had a little bit of a delay response, but this intelligence gaps now, like with the speed, is a huge PR and brand risk when you have one that's so large, especially in the absence of social listening. And I think with higher ed, and I love us to death, but we are so behind in so many different areas where people hear, and if you can give us the difference too between someone listening that say, oh, well, we actually already have Sprout for social listening. What's the difference between social listening and the social intelligence? Because a lot of teams will have a dashboard
Mhm.
and they still have the crisis. A lot of teams will have the reports and again the dashboards, but nothing changes. What does it take to operationalize a social listening product into intelligence? Because I think that's kind of where people say, hey, we get the dashboard, we get the tool, we're social listening. But then there's not that elevated level of social intelligence to kind of act on the PR and crisis that you mentioned.
Yeah. So I like to say social listening is things that stay inside the social media team, at worst, at best, inside marketing.
Right.
Unless it leaves your current bubble, it's not intelligence. It's just some data that your group has. So yes, you
Mhm.
could have a dashboard, you could have, you could have everything that's like if they mention our brand or a competitor or this trend that we're following or this program that we're investing in or this professor, whatever it is, you can hear that. But one, you're hearing that after it's already been said. And once you do have that, you just know. And the standard way is now you put it in a spreadsheet, you put it in a deck, nobody reads it. You send it in an email,
What? You
nobody
don't read
opens it.
line for line, a
Yeah,
100
listen,
page.
listen. It's like this is what I said about like the drowning in data. Like there's so much information, but like for so many of these things, like nobody outside the social team even cares. So the intelligence piece is why does this matter to someone else? And it could be that, hey, we announced that we were going to hire this professor, and there was the initial chatter. But on TikTok, somebody knew this person in high school and is telling a little story about them. And this is not a good story. And now people are piling on like, I knew that person in college. I have a story. I knew that person in grad school. I also have a story. Whatever these stories are that you missed in your background check, social listening is we hear this is happening. Let's write it up that there is some negative sentiment about X, Y, and Z.
Right, it has to be valuable outside your team. It
Yes,
can't just be "Okay, cool, we got 200 comments, great, awesome."
yes,
But it has to hold value to say, "Oh, there's some," like you said, "negative sentiment that could
yes.
affect a business decision
Yes.
that was
Now
made
it's
outside."
like, wait, I
Yeah,
was considering going there. If this is the type of person they're hiring, maybe I need to reconsider.
right,
Then that conversation takes over. So now you need to call the dean of professors. You need to talk to enrollment because they're about to get their emails and DMs. It's about to blow up that, and the
right,
phone's going to start ringing in the admissions office. Hi, do you guys have a comment on this? And you don't want them to pick up the phone and go, comment on what? So this is where you
right,
get that intelligence. It's your team seeing something because the social media team is the team on the ground. They're the
right,
closest to the customer always. And as soon as you see that, it's like, hold on. This is what's happening. This is what it means. Maybe it's peaking, maybe it's coming back down, whatever it is, who else needs to know this? And the intelligence is when it leaves your team and starts to move cross org. That's the difference between listening. Listening can just be something you guys do. You take some notes, maybe you bring it up in an all hands, but the crossover into intelligence is here are three other stakeholders who need to know this. This is what we suggest you do based on what we're seeing. So the social team again goes from people who just like post beautiful content about, the higher ed brand to we are on the ground. We
yeah,
are going to tell you what to do and what we're seeing and what our recommendation is. You're going to do that. Then you're going to come back to us and we're going to tell you if perception has changed. And then we're going to be in a loop until we solve this problem. And that I think, social media teams have to have the confidence to say, we see the data, we've interpreted it, we know what we're doing. Here's our recommendation, here's the data behind
right,
us. You have to trust us. And
yep,
once you have that reputation, then people will start coming to you and you just have a much bigger role because you are the voice of the student, are the voice of the industry. You're the voice of, in your org, whatever is happening around your brand, you're the only ones who really know and are chronically online enough to know when something is shifting. And so that's the difference between
yeah.
we heard this, and here is our plan on why it matters and what you need to do and what the loop needs to be so we can get ahead of whatever's coming after this.
And I also think there's the other side of it because having been in the seat as like the social media analyst or the brand strategist, integrated marketer, all the random titles that you get as you go through a marketing career, is the other side is executive needing to be, I would almost say, always receptive of the information. They don't have to do anything with it. You don't have to agree with the findings. You don't have to act on any of the findings, but always having, I would say, like some degree of like, oh, we're receiving this and we hear you. Because I've also experienced where you have the smartest social media managers and analysts coming back. an executive being like, why are you bringing me this social media report? I've got admissions to handle. I've got to look at this and budgets and all these things. And I feel like sometimes that canary in the coal mine only lasts but for so long, and it's like, well, we're going to you're not seeing value that we're trying to bring. So we're just going to play cool. And then, of course, like we talked about earlier, it's that one time where you don't share the report. Or you're like, well, no one's ever really cared about the comment section when we have kind of dissected this and given the social intelligence. So we'll keep it pushing. And that's the one viral moment where the New York Times are calling you and like, do you have a comment? And
Right.
so I also think there is a piece where the social media manager does have the responsibility to bring people along and be able to articulate the intelligence in a way that other people can receive it, and hopefully the higher education executive suite can be receptive because
Yes.
yeah.
I I think it's one of those things where you can figure out a cadence that works for your brand. If,
Yep.
it's very noisy, maybe you just make like a weekly social intelligence digest and you're like, "Look, here's general. If you're thinking about admissions, here's what students are saying. Here's what this is saying. Here's what the market is saying.
Yep.
We had a negative comment and like this is what happened, but in overall, it might have had a lot of, sentiment, but like none of those people even attend the school. So you
Right.
figuring out like how to, because we all know
Yeah.
the loudest people are the people who are like, you don't even go here. So it is figuring out like taking things, putting them into context and sending it every week whether or not they open it, because when that moment does happen, you can go. We've been bringing this up for the last 6 weeks in the social intelligence digest that we send.
And
And
never said a
now
thing.
it was simmering, it was boiling, and now it has boiled over.
Right.
Where were you this whole time when we were saying, here's what the action item is, here's the next step? How come nobody did the action item? How come nobody did the next step? Like, our job is to
Right.
start this and give a recommendation. The other stakeholders have to carry out the action. So we did our job. What were you guys doing? And so,
Yeah.
even if you feel like, because again, it's sad that sometimes it does take that crisis for people to understand the value of social, but at least in that moment, you are covered. It's not a,
Right.
well, you didn't do your, it's like, no, 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 no. We said it on May 13th, May 24th, May such and such. Like,
Yeah.
so I don't know. And then it's like, oh, wait, we all should start reading those. This is now mandatory reading
Yeah.
for everyone above this level at the university. Now, that's also the consequence of being too good at your job, because now you got to make this thing every week and it better be good because everybody's reading.
Right.
But
Right.
like, that's the difference between social as like a cute little thing that an intern could do or my kid could do, which is what people were saying forever, and social really being like, what is it? Like the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, the only thing
Yeah.
any of us remember from biology.
Right.
Like social really being like the mitochondria of your higher ed team. It's like we're the power.
Okay, actually, no, I remember ribosomes.
See, I
I re
don't. I got mitochondria, powerhouse of the cell. That's all you are getting from me. Don't ask for anything else.
So as we kind of go through too, I think one of the hesitations, or like especially as we're talking about higher education, most of the time we're working with a lean team without a big budget or without a dedicated analyst. So from your perspective, what are some of the tactical ways that we can start using or kind of getting ready and gearing up to use social intelligence? Because I think that's a core, and I would love to say that our higher ed respondents to that Sprout research question, that we're in there, right? Like most of the time, the reason why the copy content creation is the one we use most is because it's the most cost effective one. It's the one that people greatly feel and have a high degree of comfort. There's a bunch of YouTube videos about it. There's a bunch of TikTok videos about it. So it's easy to consume and learn. And so what are some of those tactical ways that a lean team can start to use social intelligence? Because I do think that it's the tool cost and maybe even like subject matter expertise where people are like, oh, I'm not a social media intelligence or social intelligence, and I'm not an analyst. Most people have a PR background or a comms background. We see a lot of variety in those roles of people who are tasked with marketing on a university. So, what are some of those tactical steps that people can get familiar, though they might not have a intelligence background?
Yeah, I think, just by being consumers of social media and consumers of culture,
Yeah.
we are qualified. So it is like, how do you shift from like reporting and being reactive to like being proactive and prioritizing things? So lots of I think of the work is like going, okay, well, these three posts perform well, so let's make more of those.
And people are like, why would we stop our MBA program? Why wouldn't we put $1,000,000 in December?" Like,
Listen,
because you're competing with, like, literally Amazon and
everyone,
Walmart
yes,
and
yes, and nobody's trying to buy an MBA, I'm trying to buy a television or a Switch for my kids.
right, right.
So, yes, you are correct. But I think, it's like trying to figure out those patterns, sentiment, emerging
Mhm.
topics, like what's coming, especially if you're like, hey, there's some new, we always know like things that pop off at a certain time. Now it's like cherry blossom season. If you live somewhere where your university is going to have cherry blossoms on the campus, you already know that that's what's
Yes,
coming. And so it
right.
is like, researching that, what's going to happen around that, what's the content, is anybody making that content where we can popularize it? Because as silly as it is, I don't know how silly it is, a lot of people are choosing what university to attend based on how instagrammable it is, which, all things considered, if the education is right in both places and the price is right in both places, I too am going to the most instagrammable place. So
Right. It's a matter of I think, like, there's a whole oh my gosh, I forget the guy's name, but he does, like, like, psychological thing behind, like, marketing, and one of the things he talked about. Yeah, is his name Eugene? I think it might be Eugene. Yeah, but, like, he was talking about that where it's like dopamine, like, it's almost like dopamine decor. You wanna be somewhere if you're gonna pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to attend something, you want it to be an aesthetic. You want it to be aside from the education plus
yes, plus.
the aesthetic and those things. So I again, like, I went to the University of South Carolina because I like the horseshoe. It's visually very beautiful. If I had the money, I would have been right at Duke because I think Duke's campus is beautiful. So that totally has legs. And I think I won't say it's a hot take because I don't think it is, but I do think we've kind of strayed away from classic things that the forward thinking, the editorial planning, where when you mentioned cherry blossoms, that made me think of every year I used to sit down and used to go to nationalholidays.com and like seeing what's coming. And you're like, well, how can we
Yes.
thoughtfully tack on to Mental Health Awareness Week? How
Yes.
can we, or even here in North Carolina, especially thinking about universities like Boone, UNC Asheville, like all like out there when the leaves and the foliage start to change.
Right.
How do we lean into social media during that time? Also, not gonna lie, doing a little paid spin when your campus is the most beautiful and you've got
Yes.
and it's just a psyops at that point because people are like, "Oh, it's August, it's October, and all these beautiful trees." But then it's like you read the copy and it's like, UNC Asheville is the best campus. And you're like, "Oh, shoot.
Yes.
That's what campus looks like?" And
Yes.
even just trying to strategically align those things. When you said cherry blossoms, I was like, I know exactly where she's going. And it's just those little things we've strayed away from because
Yes.
we tried to over optimize on what's in the immediate, but that ecosystem part you
Yes.
mentioned is so important because if you look up and you forget, just as humans, we're interested in the cherry blossoms. They're so beautiful. They're so lovely. Lean into that if that's on your campus.
Yes. Yes. Syracuse, I went to, they had an event for their Center for Creator Education, which already I was like, wait, what do you guys have now? But yes,
Right.
they have
Let me
the
write
first,
this down. Who is Syracuse? You got
yes,
a
yes,
point of
Syracuse.
contact?
Yes, no, we gotta hook you up. So
Okay.
that's gonna be a future episode. You can talk about that. But what they decided to do was they were talking about how they have students making content because he's like, nobody wants to see, and we all knew what he was gonna say. The professor in the white jacket talking about how we have won X number of grants. and then the diverse people running across the quad playing Frisbee. I never played Frisbee at Rutgers. I'm sorry. I'm sure there was places to do it, but I wasn't playing. What are we doing here?
Brittany, I took you as Frisbee team captain.
No. No. And so it's like we have gotten to a point where like university commercials look no different than pharmaceutical commercials. It's the same thing. And it's like the same person might be paying for both
Mhm.
because this is boomer money. Like
Yeah,
that's who's
right.
paying for the education. But in terms of like getting a student to want to go there, it's content that is like, what is my life going to be like
Mhm.
when I'm here? So, yes, pushing the academics, but we already know they're going to do their research on that because their parents are not going to let them spend that money or take out that loan unless the academics are where they need to be. But
Yeah.
again, all things considered, when it's between your school and these other two, and they're looking at the packages, and maybe they're all pretty similar, or maybe yours is not as great as other people, but they're like, but man, my life here would be this is what I want.
What?
That's the push. And like that push comes from like, what is life like on campus? And we couldn't do that before social media. You just would like go, you take a tour.
Yeah.
If you didn't like the tour person, you're like, ew, I don't like this tour person. I'm not even coming here. And like that was it.
Yes.
You had
Yeah.
one shot and you had to really hope you hit the nail on the head. Now every campus is full of influencers. They are
Right.
all creating content. This is me at the dining hall. This is me at the library. This is what we do after class. You got the whole thing. And it
Right.
is no surprise that, like down south, like Bama, their applications are going through the roof because of Rush Week. Every person around the country who wants to rush is looking at that going, that's what it looks like at that school. I'm going there. Or maybe,
Or comparing it to be
yes,
like, "This is the
comparing it to
Bama
other ones.
standard. What's
Yes.
yours?" Yeah.
Yes, or going, well, that's too much for me, but I saw this TikTok of their rush and I want that.
That
And so
one.
these are all things that, like, as a university, you're not necessarily promoting Rush Week. You're not necessarily, but it is very much what is your academic content calendar that you want to promote? But what's the life on campus academic calendar? And that really is like asking students, hey, you made this great video. Can we repost it? They
Right.
want to be tagged. And they can be like, look, mom, I am doing something. School tagged me in my video. And so now
Right.
it's this whole thing. So it is like full circle. And if you're lean and you're like, I can't run on and create all that content, the content's already being made. There is so
Mhm.
much content being made about your org. You just have to go get it and ask for it. There's UGC
Right.
for days. And that's what people want to see. And it also keeps you from being lame if there's a trend and you're like, ooh, we want to hop on that. No, you are not allowed to hop on that. But a
Right.
student who did the trend and did it well, can you repost that? Yes.
Yeah.
Then it is very much like, oh, okay, I see what's happening there. And they support their students who are creative. Now you've got the halo, you get like the full effect. So it
Yeah.
is like, if you were deciding to attend or come work there, or if you're an alumni, Rutgers is constantly asking me for a check. I'm like, what's going on over there? What did my tuition build? Can I see some of the buildings? Can I? And there's always a way to create content so that when you make the ask, which is accept this, application to work here, or fill out this form, or say yes to come be here, or please, alumni, give us some money to build this new thing. You have to have done all that groundwork so that decision is easy.
Gonna hit pause for a second to share some awesome news. If you or your team are looking for practical strategies to crush operational bottlenecks and scale engagement with AI, then Engage Summit 2026 in Charlotte needs to be your destination this June 15th through the 17th. From hands on sessions to main stage keynote showing how AI transforms enrollment and retention, Engage Summit is the place to level up your institution's game in ways you probably didn't realize were possible. You'll walk away with tools, frameworks, and connections that actually move the needle and meet people who will keep pushing you forward long after the conference ends. The good news? Spots are still available. And even better news, Enrollify listeners get 50% off ticket price. Yeah, we're talking half off, folks. Just head to engage.element451.com and use code Safaniya50. That's SAFANIYA50. Now, back to the show.
as
Also,
opposed to coming in fresh.
to that, there's can also be that separation between what university is like trying to push as like our brand thing, our lead, and what's that. I think social intelligence can even just come from the creator and user generated content that you mentioned, where, hey, our student creators, everybody's coming back. We don't talk about this, but everybody's coming back with our juice bar. Like everybody is talking about how aesthetically pleasing. It's such a great place to study. We got 5 videos this week from different creators that have submitted something from the juice bar. Is there something there? And is the juice bar, and I know it always just seems silly until it's not silly, but it's like, is the juice bar a piece of like the university? Like,
Yes.
is it because we designed it to open up to the science lab? Is it because we wanted to make sure that students had affordable options for healthy outside of soda? Because very little on a university is left to chance. There's not a whole lot because of the red tape, because of all the decisions. The juice bar that was brought in for a very specific reason. It's doing well. Why is it doing well? Because it was an intentional choice. And I think it makes me think of when I visited St. Ambrose and the kids, while we were there on our tour, they're like, you gotta go try our energy drinks. Like we have these things called, I think they were called stingers. And I remember getting one. I was like, when can I get back out here? This is delicious. And one of the students was just talking about, but what's really cool about it is like our manager in the back, like she works with anybody that wants to work at the Stinger Juice like bar, like the energy drink bar. You can work here. Like they try to give everybody an opportunity to serve on campus. People are really chill about the schedule. Even like as a student who I'm a double major and I do this and I do that, I still have an opportunity to get some like real world customer like service experience, even though it's not my thing. And I'm sitting there going, in all of the research that I did to like for the marketing of St. Ambrose to help as a partner, I was like, this is secret sauce here. Like there's something here. And that's kind of where that social intelligence, where then that becomes a social media post, right? About there's so many opportunities to serve on campus. Let me show you how I literally serve. And like they're slinging these singer drinks and it's
Mhm.
super cool. But I think to your piece though, is it's not a tool. It doesn't have to be a dashboard. It doesn't have to be, we're looking for someone with 10 years of experience of performance marketing, data analytics. It just needs to be someone that is has the ability to tap into culture and pattern recognize. And
Yes.
sometimes that lives outside of a dashboard. That
Yeah.
lives outside of a tool.
Yes. And it's like it's not a megaphone, it's a
Yeah.
microphone. It's like,
Mm,
we're gonna talk, and then you're gonna talk, and we're gonna talk, and we're gonna talk, and we're gonna I think it's something like 55. This is like a consumer stat, but it applies
mhm.
here because this is you buy college, so you buy higher ed.
Right.
Paying for it is more expensive than a pair of boots, so it
Yes.
counts. But it is very much like it's like 55% of customers like expect when they say something for the brand to listen and act on it.
Mm,
55% is a lot because it's not that, oh, you didn't know. Of course you knew. I say this on social all the time. I post on X, I post on Instagram, I post on TikTok. I wish such and such. On Rutgers, it was a very big thing like, why does this bus only go in one direction? We should have one that goes this way and one that goes back because why do I have to ride all the way around?
right.
And we were, filling out the little tickets and writing it, putting it in the
And
box.
now with comment metrics, when
Yes,
you can see that the number one comment got 100,000 likes,
yes,
and not to mention all of the instances that aren't perfectly captured right now, where I love on Instagram where you can add a comment to your like story version of like you sharing something. And
mhm,
again, there's no easy way to capture that right now, but how many people like put the comment out for more of their followers to see. So like you said, there is that piece where people say, hey, I had the number one comment underneath your video and 100,000 people liked what I said when
yes.
they agreed that, like you said, hey, you guys don't open up early enough. And
Yes.
100,000 people liked it. And now you're going in 2 years of business and you still haven't Not
change
even
your
one
hours.
day to open up early
Yes.
for us.
And then
So
then it is very much, "Oh, you don't listen because you don't care." And
right.
that's how people feel, because before you could get away with, "We didn't know." Not a thing anymore. Now it's, we are telling you every day. We have
Yep.
memed it. There are whole channels dedicated to what life would be like if the juice bar opened 30 minutes earlier. Like,
The whole Reddit fan fiction,
they've
you got a
made
whole
satirical content about it. It's like, it's crazy. So it really is like, when you do that, when they speak and you listen, then
Right.
you get the goodwill of, you get all the content of people going, "You guys, we asked, they did it. It's open 30 minutes earlier." And then everyone's posting about it. It's a whole,
Right.
when you get that feedback. And that's what social intelligence is. It's the people are asking for something, we can do it, let's do it. And then that's why when you think of, like, does it have to be something so huge like this professor, or add this class? Or I remember at Rutgers,
Mhm.
we added in, I think there was a year we added in like minus grades, and it was like, what is this? I was about to get an A plus, now I'm about to get a B minus. Get out of here. Like, it's A minus, and it was just a disaster. But it just was like, it doesn't have to be big things like that. Simple things like, can we get the juice bar open 30 minutes earlier, because none of us have enough time to get to this part of campus and get our
Right.
juice. Well, that just means if you opened up 30 minutes earlier, how much more revenue would the juice bar make? So here are all
Right.
the people who want to buy but can't give you their money. Isn't that one of the KPIs of the juice bar? Like, how much revenue is it bringing in? So, like, they're
Exactly.
telling
The social
you
intelligence to business
business
decision.
decisions. Yes. So they're telling you that. They're telling you about the library. They're telling you about all the things. And it just is, can you listen? And then the social media team, your job, and you can use AI to help you do this, is to put it in a digestible way for the C suite, because they
Mhm.
don't care about the nitty gritty of it. They just
Right.
want to hear, we have gotten this volume about the juice bar needing to be open earlier. Based on the number of comments, if we scale it out, we think there is currently X amount of lost revenue. Keep in mind, this is a conservative estimate. All C suite needs to hear is lost revenue, and they're like, somebody investigate that. We are leaving money on the table. What?
And
Go
it's
work.
an opportunity for social media and marketing teams to be, like you said at the very beginning, when it comes to, because, and I've complained about it before, and then I realized I'm complaining and I'm not doing anything is, well, no one wants to invite us to the meeting because we're not doing it and then we're left out and yada. And to your point, though, is the intelligence has to be packaged in a way we have to be speaking the same language.
Yes.
So I can show our executive team, hey, the 100,000 likes on this post because this person said, you guys don't open up early. So that's why I can't go. That's not the same language as you use just now of like, based on these comments, if only a third or
Yes.
a fourth of these 100,000s came, and I know, so it's not one to one like that, but it's enough to know there's enough sentiment here to, there is a potential business risk of us not pursuing and testing opening early. Or on the other side, if you don't want to lead with risk, there is an opportunity here for us to make X amount of dollars. So as a social media team, when we translate our intelligence, it can't be inside baseball. It
Correct.
has to be the language of the people who we're trying to have this intellectual conversation with. And if it's a business decision, we have to learn as a social media team to speak business. It can't be the KPIs. Well, this got 100,000 likes, and the provost is looking at you like, so what? Like, what does that mean to me?
Yes. Yeah, because
And
the
we
last
have to
thing
speak the
people
same
want to
language.
hear is, we closed the juice bar because it wasn't making enough money. It's like, because, yes, because, as I told, so that, and
Yes,
that's what happens all the time. Things go wrong, and everyone's like, you didn't do any of the things we told you to do that would have
right,
saved it. Now, not only are people angry because you didn't listen to them, you not listening to them cost them to lose something they love.
right.
Now you have a very big problem when all you had to do was investigate the thing they were
Right.
telling you. So, and
And
I
that's
love
so
what you said
huge at a
though.
university because when someone's there and the juice spot is their favorite thing on campus for their freshman year and their sophomore year, and you pull it, you're like, well, one of my amenities is gone. Before
Yes.
I graduate here in 2 years, is it going to be replaced? And we know with higher ed, the red tape to replace a vendor and to do the construction and get everything, I'm sorry, it will be something that you can donate to after you when you graduate if you like that juice bar.
I went to Rutgers and we had the grease trucks, which Netflix did like a whole series on it. Like it's a popular thing. And that is why everyone gained the freshman 15, because you should not be having a gyro, chicken finger, French fry, lettuce, tomato thing every night at 4 a.m. But it was delicious. And it was in a parking lot off of College Avenue. And I remember when they closed it, the entire university was like, I'm sorry, you're going to put apartments there? Nobody wants to live in these apartments. Bring us back the food. And it was to the point where we were like, we will pay extra to
To
keep them
bring
there.
it. Yeah.
And then, surprising no one, did they have full occupancy in those apartments? We told you nobody wanted to live there. Bring back grocery shirts. They did listen a bit. Rutgers is pretty good. Even when I went there, listening a little bit. I think there were like some concessions, and then it got moved to some other talking about. But it's just the point of like you said, like some people when they visit, you don't know what is the thing keeping someone at your university. It
Right.
might be that juice bar. It might be the specifics about this computer lab. It might be X, Y, and Z about the library. And unless you're constantly surveying your students, you don't know what's the thing where you're like, whoa, 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 what happened here? And it's like, oh, it was this thing. I thought nobody used that. They were telling you online that they did, and you weren't listening. Same thing with with when NIL is so huge now in higher
Mhm.
ed, and like, what are your athletes saying? What's especially, and I think if you're the social team, if you are friends with like the social team of like the athletics, all of you should band together and try to get the language together and figure out your processes together, because they listen to those teams, because
Right.
those teams are generating revenue that shows up immediately. And
Yep.
so it is very much about students were saying X, Y, and Z about tickets. And then we did X, Y, and Z, and this is what happened. And because they're a little closer, like if you're general for the university, something like a juice bar or hours, those things might take longer for you to materialize. Whereas on the athletic side, their stuff moves
Immediate.
relatively quickly
Right.
because they have games all season. They have athletes who are posting. They can see concessions. They can see all sorts of things. So if that's not under if that's not part of your mandate, it's good to go make friends with those people
Right.
and bring some of your social intelligence to them and say, hey, I'm thinking about this format. See if they can test it. Now you know the format works. Can you like
Mhm.
do it? And can you like all work together to figure it out?
And the business language, because 'cause they're immediately talking ticket prices and
Yes.
promos and the
Yes.
cost of a meet and greet, the cost of free swag that we give out that we promoted. What did that even though we gave free swag, 20 people came for the free swag, but then 15 of them converted to the game.
Yes.
So, yeah, being able to kind
You
of
have to think like that. And then,
yeah,
sports is a lot of reasons why people come. I went to Rutgers because I wanted to go to school that had a football team. That was like the highest on my list. I live in New York. I got into NYU. My mom was like, "You should go to NYU." I was like, "It does not have a football team." Like, I'm going to a school that has that was on my list. I said, "I want to go
yeah,
to football games and I want to join a sorority," and they don't have either of those. So, no.
not for me.
It wasn't even because, I'm from the city. So, like, you have to it's like all of those things. It's like, why are people here? And for me, I'm from Manhattan and I'm from New York. I wanted a suburban experience. And
Right,
so those were huge things. Those were huge draws to me. At some point, I wanted to live in a house off campus. Like I've always lived in an apartment. I'm like, I want to live in a house. I want to join a sorority. And I want to go to football games. I wanted to like do that. And so but Rutgers never even asked me, like, if that's why I was coming. So, like, the
right.
more you survey your students, you can start to put together like this, the sample of like, why do people come here?
And you can do it now at mass with social. You have a TikTok, you put a little paid behind a TikTok video. I love the man on the street videos of kids with just their microphone saying, "What's the number one reason why you came here?" And they're like, "I came here for this academic program, or I came specifically for this professor. I came specifically because I live in the small town outside of here and I didn't want to go far from home." And like that's the man to signal what we want you to do, like the CTA, and then you have the hundreds and thousands of comments of people saying why they came to the university, and then you have the hundreds and thousands of likes to those comments to show you out of these, I sympathize most with this one and that one. I think that's a really cool way to look at that because there is that piece of the research that comes with social intelligence too that you can do if you don't have, the hundreds of thousands of dollars to do formal research. You can pull those insights from social too.
Yes. And then when you think about like how does that translate, then if you can say, here are the top 10 reasons why people go here. When someone is a prospect, you can, because before you used to just get the same book. Everybody got the same book in the mail,
Mhm.
regardless of why you're coming to the university. But you can lead gen people now. You can have them on a page where it's like, what are the top 3 reasons why you're coming here? And it could be
Right.
like, I'm coming for this program. I'm coming because I don't want to be far from home and I'm coming from this. And you can change their website experience to
Mhm.
match that those are the 3 most important things. And like
Right.
that is unbelievable because the last thing you want to do, and this happens with businesses all the time, is somebody didn't choose your university because they thought you didn't have something that you did. It's like, "Oh, we have that." And it's like, "Oh, I didn't know." And it's like, "Oh, how many other people didn't
Did.
come here because they didn't know we had this thing and this was the deciding factor." And so it is, you can do the surveys, you can change stuff. And that is, lots of times the social team is sitting close with the website team, even if
Mhm.
it's like a micro site where it's not the whole website, it's like on social, you get this link.
Yeah.
And then here's the micro site that walks you through. You could take a little quiz, whatever it is. Like, even which campus should you be on? Rutgers has like 6 campuses. You're like, I don't know. What's the difference? I don't go there. Why should I know? And
Yeah.
it is like, take a quiz, like we can do so much that we could not do before. And sometimes, best case scenario is people learn all these things and go, this is not the place for me, which is great because you don't want them to get there and
And
realize
be
this is not the
disappointed.
place for them because
Right.
there is someone who wanted that seat. And so it is like, can you just make the whole experience better? Applying to your school should be great. When I had to apply to law schools, there were a bunch of schools, their systems broke down. I remember the year we all applied, and a bunch of us didn't even get responses. We got responses in September. I was like, I'm already enrolled in a school. You missed the window. What happened? So I
Yeah.
would never apply to that school ever again because I'm like, y'all don't have it together for people applying who are about to give you money. How are you
And
going to
think
treat
about today. Think about had that been your experience today and you are a high school influencer, content creator, and you're like, I applied for 6 colleges and I'm going to this one because it had XYZ, but it's like, didn't go to this one because never heard back from y'all. Love the campus, but and so then that becomes the social listening
yes,
crisis brand
yes.
brand and culture response. So you're like, oh man, now people are dragging us on TikTok because of XYZ reasons. And that's
Yeah,
not cool either.
college applications are not free. We have to pay to apply. At the bare minimum, you owe me a response. And
Right.
so, how many people now won't waste the 65, 75, whatever it is, dollars to apply to your school because there's a chance you won't respond? You
Mm.
have a big problem now. And it's those sorts of things where it's like, wait, what? Because plenty of people, they don't even realize, people who are looking at application fee revenue are not necessarily the same people who are in charge of making sure everybody gets a response. And so now in your social intelligence digest that you send every week, you can send that as a point like, hey, if these 2 teams are not talking, they need to because this is showing up. And I guarantee you this is going to affect how many applications come in the next semester. And then you can go ask for that data and then you can prove yourself right and say, this was a thing. We never addressed it. And look, it showed up in lower enrollment. And so, or lower admission. So it is all of that like step back from like we work in social because we're cool. We work in social because we speak many languages and we can translate across all of them. That's who we are and what we do. We can take what a student says, flip it around so that the provost cares. We can take what's happening in the cafeteria where the lunch ladies are like, we're mean because everybody's not nice to us. And it's like, you guys got to put out a thing on campus. We got to do a series like meet your lunch ladies. Be nice to them. She's got 4 kids. This one like was in a war. Like this one could be doing anything. She used to be an opera singer and she's here with you guys. Ask her to sing you a song. It's like
Yeah.
figuring out, but like that's something super simple where you get an insight, you flip it around, make some content. Then people are like, oh, wait, our lunch ladies are cool. I didn't even know. Because at Rutgers, we had a lunch campus. All the ladies who worked there were Black. The food was immaculate. I don't know what they got off the truck, but they were fixing it up before they served it to us. And that campus was far from me, and I didn't care. I would get on the bus when I saw the menu and said, what is it going to be? We're going over there for dinner because so and so and so are going to hook it up. It's just because you have that
Love that.
relationship. When you're in college, like you live there, you see those people more than you see your family. And so it needs to be a place where if you say something, you think they're going to hear you, they're going to listen, and best case scenario, they're going to act on it because then you feel like you belong. And then when you graduate, you have fond memories, much more likely to write that alumni check once
Right.
you've got some money. So those insights and that action on campus with the juice bar can turn into, fine, I'll give you $1,000 for whatever it is you need it now, 20 years later, because I remember that you treated me well, which means this money will be well spent because you're going to spend it on what the students are asking for. And that's huge. And that's something that will show up after you don't even have this job anymore,
Mhm.
And so we are master translators. We are the people we are the business consultant to every unit in higher ed because you're the only people who are that close to the customer. And like that, I think you have to remember to stay empowered, especially when they don't listen to you, especially when they do the exact thing you told them not to do, especially when they don't invite you to the meeting. You have to remember that because that's true regardless of whether they appreciate it or not. Your job is to close the gap with insights to remind them why technically you have the most powerful role in any org. You're the person who talks to the people who pay. That's it. Nobody else can say that in any company, not Nike, not McDonald's, not Zoom, forget higher ed, just anywhere.
Yeah.
The social team is the most powerful. They just tend to forget it a lot. So just remember that and it'll show up in your work.
Well, you know what, Brittany? Most of the time, this is when I try to summarize or come up with something quippy and cute. But that was a mic drop. So I don't have nothing. So I just want to thank you for coming on the show. And to my lovely listeners out there, keep walking the walk and talking those tactics. We will see you next time. Thanks for listening to Talking Tactics. If you want to try out the tactics you heard on today's show, you get a full 10 from me. And I would love to hear about how you made them your own. You can find me by searching Safaniya, Safaniya on LinkedIn. There's not many Safaniyas on there, so you'll be able to see me. And if you're enjoying Talking Tactics, please rate and review the show. The overachiever in me needs your feedback, and I'll certainly use it for confirmation or, optimization, depending on the review. And finally, if you just can't get enough great podcasts, the Enrollify Podcast Network delivers with an amazing selection of other marketing and admissions-based podcasts just for you. Visit Enrollify.org and subscribe for all the latest details and content drops directly to your inbox. Enrollify is brought to you by Element 451, the digital workforce platform for higher ed. Learn more at element451.com. See you next time.